We are now right inside the Tokyo. The entire town in India is going to drive slowly around. So feel free to stretch your legs. And once again, it will make you feel better later. So, Tokyo is about kilometers long. The narrowest point is about 100 meters wide, and the widest point in this pool here is about 350 meters wide. The deepest part says here is about 73 meters deep, and several mountains around here are either at or above 1 kilometer long. For example, the Full Mountain on our left side in the photo has several peaks over 1 kilometer. Tidal differences around here at the normal low 2.5 meters and normal high 3.5 meters with a greater difference of about 1.3 meters and 3.6 or 3.7 meters. The absolute difference is about 4 meters, and the 1000 year interval is about 5 meters. Right now we're at the normal low tide, which is about 1 meter now, maybe 1.5. And by the way, the little black birds, they're still flying around us in here, called taste, black guillemots in English. They're one of my favorite birds. They are very, very quiet. They hardly make any noise, always a good thing in a bird. They eat insects I don't like, as well as they swim underwater and eat fish. They have very, very red little legs. So when they're trying to lift off or when they're swimming or running around, they look quite funny. They have a purple beak, which is quite interesting. So, can anyone try to guess what the Troll Fjord? Wild guesses are allowed. Even in front. This is for adults.
Is the shape of this?
No, that's what it's called. The reason it's called the Troll Fjord is because people believe the trolls living in here is a lot more reasonable than you might think when you just know the backstory. These are some of the oldest mountains in the world, at about 2.7 to 3.4 billion years old, with a big. And they are continental, tectonic mountains, made from a continental shift between two tectonic plates. Similar to how Mount Everest was made, and that is the most dangerous kind of mountain. Because this means you get a whole bunch of various minerals mixed in with the rock, and you also get different layers of ground just pushed up. So you see, for example, here there's some orange discolorations randomly along the wall. That's iron melting out of the wall. And all of these cracks are, for example, from minerals that have withered out of the rock, and then water has seeped in and cracked open the rock a few billion times, and you get a whole bunch of shattering. As the mountain walls shatters like glass, eventually pieces will fall off like glass, which isn't particularly good. In many cases you can get rocks 7 or 8 falling down towards you. And they can be so loose that the vibrations from you walking below the rocks can be enough to set them down. That's not very good. By the way, this is the maximum volume of those birds. And the thing around here is that because of the way they were made, there's a lot of sandstone in the mountains. This is basically just a whole bunch of ocean sand pressed really, really hard together underground. Now, can you try to guess what happens to this sandstone when it's then up in the mountainside from millions or perhaps a few billion years old? It disintegrates back into sand. You're walking high up in the mountains. It can look safe and it can look normal. There can be grass, there can be trees, everything. But one day when you're walking up here, the entire ground is now gone beneath you and you're falling down the mountainside. That's not good. I don't know about you, but a crash course in flying isn't going to help me much. In fact, it's probably going to harm me, in fact. And so with a lot of incidents over the years, with rocks falling straight down towards people out of nowhere, and with the ground just giving away into sand out of nowhere, like magic, a lot of rumors started to spread. Now, the real question is, what kind of creature can do this?
Trolls.
Yes. Now, you can never see them, especially during daytime, there's no sign of them. But the moment you approach dark, you can start to hear them. Even during summertime, because the mountains are so steep and sharp. By the way, there's some fish over there. It's bubbling, it's probably mackerel. Even during summertime, you can hear the cracking in the mountains from the ice expanding inside the walls. Now, this can sound rather strange, like rumbling or crumbling, and crushing and thumping sounds, almost like someone is fighting in the mountains. And that someone is huge. Now, in winter it gets a lot worse. And in winter time it can sound like thousands or even millions of big creatures are fighting inside the mountains. And, well, those are trolls. Trolls are never out during the day, but you can hear them at night. And they're usually hiding in the fog or such. So let's say you're out hunting. Maybe you're up in the mountains looking for a deer or something. Now all of a sudden a rock's coming straight towards you out of nowhere. You're most likely going to be a bit worried. And maybe you're hearing a whole bunch of strange sounds from inside the mountains. I don't know about you, but I'm probably going to be a bit scared. And if I'm going to run shitless back home to town, the next time I'm drunk, there's going to be a million big creatures chasing after me, because otherwise running wouldn't be very good. So there's basically just a whole bunch of stories and events that we've been building up over the years, forming a little bit throughout the troll. And here there are three buildings. There's there, and there's two over on the right. The one behind us and the one furthest on the right side are hydroelectric power plants draining from big lakes up inside the mountains. It's hydroelectricity. You can see the water pipe going up the mountain where the water is being brought down to the electric plant. And the third building is the service building where they used to live back in the day when they had to manually operate the plants. These days they're almost fully automated, so you just have to come out here to do service. Have you heard the Trollfjord battle? Battle called the Trollfjord? Nobody did that. So, this area is great for fishing. It always has been. And one of the most effective ways to fish around here is to use the natural environment. For example, fjords like these. Lay outside on the current, and when the fish come with the current, you splash on the water. They steer the fish into the fjord here, and then you can just use big fishing nets to scoop it all up. However, can you try to guess when the best time to fish is?
Sure.
Yes. Can you try to guess what happens in here in winter? It freezes with solid saltwater ice. This gets very, very thick very, very quickly, and it also gets extremely hard, harder than normal ice. And it only starts to freeze at about negative 6 or 7 degrees Celsius when the water reaches about that temperature. It will take quite a while, but once it happens, it'll go quickly. And so, of course, the wood boat fishermen back in the day would not be able to fish when it's all frozen. But eventually we got access to steel boats. And then the wood boat fishermen would hire steel ships to come in, crush the ice and move it out, allowing them to fish all year round. Eventually, someone got greedy. So one day, after all the hard work had been done, the ice had been crushed and moved out, the fish had been scared in, the only thing left was to pick up all the fish and then head home. The steelboat fishermen decided they wanted more. But instead of talking it out like civilized folk, they decided to just blockade the entrance and then set the maps. Either you pay us a tax percentage of all the fish you're catching here, or we'll just take all the fish we can and then leave us the rest of it is gone. But rather obviously, this did not make the football fishermen very happy. Especially as they'd already paid for the service to have the ice cleared, they were now, rather angry, I would say. So to make a long story short, these old wood boat fishermen, they're out rowing heavy wooden boats every single day throughout their lives in very harsh weather and everything else. Pulling their fish by hand every single day. So they get very, very strong. And from all the bad weather, rather tough as well. And they also happen to outnumber the steelboat fishermen by a lot. So can you try to guess what happens when you have more men that are stronger and angrier?
Some fight?
The woodboat fishermen, they rowed up to the other guys and they gave them a solid beating. And since then there's been some laws. You cannot stop fishing vessels from coming into this kind of area. It's illegal. They are very likely to beat your ass anyway if you try, so I wouldn't recommend it. And yeah, it's called the Trollfjord Battle, or Battle of the Trollfjord. You can read the full story online, and you can also find a painting of it, where they were fighting at the entrance over there. The last thing I'll mention before we go is that the cliffside on the left here is 500 meters tall, going almost straight up from the water. And I mentioned before, 7 or 8 tons of rocks can come tumbling down. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, they tried to move in larger steam boats here with heavy, heavy steam engines. These would make a lot of heavy vibration, go up the mountainside, and in turn, those vibrations can send down rocks. Very heavy rocks. The heaviest ones found were about 20 tons. So you can imagine what it feels like to have 20 tons falling straight down towards your head. If you feel anything at all, it will be extremely painful. At the very least, it should end quickly. Yeah. So they quickly stopped doing that. And in the later years, they've done some seismic shocks and everything, and the mountain walls have stabilized a bit. So in summer, you can bring in larger boats, for example, hookers and such. But in winter, only small, fast boats like this can come. Boats that don't make a bunch of vibration. Every single winter, I see bits and pieces falling all the time.